Corporal Barak Odwor, better known as Jaraha, was a devoted bodyguard to Ida Odinga. At the time of his murder, he was off duty, enjoying a night out with friends when violence erupted. In the moment he was to die, in the most unlikely manner, the officer was in the wrong place, wrong time, and fighting the wrong battle. By the time his body was being found dead and cold, it emerged that the officer had been disarmed and killed using his own gun. But was he? And how? Welcome to the most complete coverage of that tragedy. This here is the story of a man who protected lives for a living until one night he couldn't protect his own. This is not just another murder story on a TV near you. This is Murder Tips. Bodyguard down. And so, it begins. On the 14th day of October 2022, at around 3:30 in the morning, Marilyn Marion Ouma reported to the local police in Kisumu that a man had been shot at her residence. The man was Barak Odwor. In the hours that followed, it emerged that Barak Odwor was a police officer. The man was not your ordinary officer. Odwor was part of the security detail attached to the wife of Kenya's former Prime Minister, Ida Odinga. Barak Odwor had been shot at Victoria Gardens Estate, house number 55. The scene was bloody and horrific. The police officer had been shot twice, on the head and leg. But what was more perplexing is that the officer was killed using his own firearm. This inaugural murder tape goes back to the final 24 hours before Barak Odwor was killed and gives special attention to the crucial 6 hours before he was shot. The beginning shows us that Barak Odwor, born sometime in 1978, was married to Mercy Okoth, who he met 11 years before his murder. Mercy describes the late police officer as a humble man who knew his stuff. He prioritized his family and gave them his all.
Alikuwa the best dad. Alikuwa na provide fully. Yeah, kuna siku tulia ilaka. Alikuwa anajaribu kama mwanamume. Alikuwa ni mtu anapenda pia marafiki zake sana. Sana. Kama ni kupika mimi nimepika kwangu kwa sababu ya marafiki. Kila siku wapika. Mpaka kuna siku tu nilimwambia pia mimi twende pia mimi nikapikiwe nao marafiki zako.
Together, the couple had 5 children. 2 were from Barak's previous marriage before the death of his first wife. Mercy has no difficulties remembering the events of that day. She tells Murder Tapes the clarity of those happenings is something she's learning to forget.
We were at home with Barry. Then hadi Johnny akatoka akasema anaenda kujinyorosha tu milimani. Around 6 akarudi. My parents were also at home, my aunts. Then we had dinner. After hapo ikafika masaa around saa 4 tukaanza kuwatch movie. Baada ya kuwatch movie kuna a cousin of mine akanipigia. Then after amenipigia nikatoka kwenda kummeet. Bari alinisindikiza tu hapo mpaka kwa gate.
The police officer was a liberal man. He had no problem with the wife going out and having some little fun. On the fateful day, with his in-laws having left, Barak remained home watching one of his favorite programming, a movie, on a local vernacular station. But before the movie ended, Mercy received a phone call from Barry.
Akanambia anatoka kwa nyumba anaenda Dondes. Rafiki yake amempigia simu waende huko, then atatujoin sasa sisi ndo turudi kwa nyumba. So alipofika Dondes akanipigia, akanambia amefika Dondes. Akona rafiki yake kidogo, but nikaa rafiki yake amelewa, anamdrop. Alafu juzi tulikuwa na gari, akasema sisi ndo tutamchukua. So alipofika huko, ilipofika around kitu masaa 7 usiku hiyo siku, akapiga simu tena. Akanambia ati bado mko hapo? Tukamwambia yes tuko hapo. Akasema ati tunamkujia, like nimpatie tu sasa tu 10 minutes, ni vile tu ili take long. 10 minutes ikakawia mpaka hata si tukalala sasa.
The phone call Barak had received was from this man. For some unknown reason, his name in the police report is written as Donar Kajwang, which gives him a complete online blackout. The court file identifies him as Danyor Ajwang. He describes himself as a public health expert. He was a friend of Barak Odwar.
Sijai hata kumsikia kwa marafiki za Barak. Sijui.
From his home, Barak Odwar went to Dondes Bar and Restaurant along the Kisumu-Kakamega Highway. Here, he met Danyor Ajwang in the company of a woman. That woman was later identified as Marilyn Marion Ouma. Barak Odwar was well known here, especially to people like Helen, who has worked here for slightly over 3 years.
He's a jovial guy, so social. When he comes, nobody will miss seeing him. But that day, nobody saw him at all. But we just saw the social medias, Facebook was up that he was here. But that day, nobody saw Barak here. Nobody saw him. Because I'm sure even if he could have even sat here, it's easy for me to see him. But he didn't. I didn't see him at all. Everybody was shocked because he was a friend to everybody here. Barak, hakuna mtu aliwahi kosana na yeye, hata kujibizana vile, you know, these place customers wengine wakikuja after being drunk, you know, they misbehave. He never did that. He never. Sasa vile tulipata message, everybody was shocked.
The 44-year-old police officer had mastered the humble art of friendship with most people he met. He loved his fun too. In fact, he was called and accepted the name Jaraha. At Dondes, Barak had his own spot.
And most of the time when Barak comes, he always sits here. Barak was a very jovial man. Very jovial, very social. He was always happy. We never saw even a single day when he came and he was unable to talk, he was not happy, maybe what. He was always a jovial man. When he comes, at least everybody knows that Barak is around. Hey, Ellen, come, take a soda, at least do this and this. At least he's happy, greets everybody around. At least you'll know that he's around. Always jovial and happy. Yeah, that was the type of a man we knew Barak to be.
The reason they didn't see him might be because Barak did not take any alcohol that night, and he had no intention of leaving the house in the first place. The next day, he was supposed to be at work. Mama Ida Odinga was going for a burial in Bondo, and as part of her security detail, he was supposed to meet the team at the Kisumu airport before proceeding. Though unlikely, the other reason why they didn't see him might be because Barak didn't go to Dondes Club at all that day.
If he was here, if actually he was here, I could have been the first person to know that Barak was here. Because most of the time when he comes, I'm the one who always serves him. But that day I didn't see him.
The police officer was driving the motor vehicle. In the back seat were Danyor Ajwang and Marilyn Marion Ouma. The trio were headed to Victoria Gardens Estate in Uzima area in Riyadh. It was a distance of about 9 kilometers. The state of the road would mean the journey was going to last about half an hour. The time was 2 a.m. Security guards say At about 2:40 a.m., the vehicle drove into the posh estate on the bed of Riat Hills. At this time, Barack Odwor, Danyor Ajuang, and Marilyn Ouma are the only people making their way into the Victoria Gardens in Kisumu. But how and why would Barack Odwor be shot dead? On many accounts, Murder Tapes has been told that Collins Okundi had spotted his girlfriend with one of her boyfriends earlier in the day at Donde's club. He retreated to his workplace at Signature Club. Here, it is said that he took alcohol, a lot of it. Mercy says she also learnt of this information when she visited Signature Club to see Collins for herself.
Hiyo hata nilienda before burial. Yeah, nilienda huko kumtafuta huko before. Like nilikuwa nataka tu nijue. Nikaenda hapo. Huyo msichana akaniambia Collins ameshikwa. Na pia ameshikwa kwani amefanya nini? Akasema Collins amepatikana huko kwa scandal. Alikuwa amelewa jana, hata jana ilikuwa haeleweki. Nikamwambia kwani haeleweki aje? Akasema jana alikuwa ametoka hapa hivi sijui kwenda kutafuta sijui drinks huko Donde zenye zilikuwa kwa shop yao. Alafu akapata girlfriend wake na boy. Akarudi. Akakunywa kweli kweli. Alikunywa sana hiyo siku. So akatoka tena. Huyo msichana ananiambia. So anasema baada ya hapo alisikia tu Collins aliua. So hajui kuliendaje.
Maybe what he didn't know is that Marion was to share a house and time with Danyor Ajuang that night. And so, Collins, as usual, went to Victoria Gardens to his Marion. It was about 20 minutes to 4 a.m. The gates at Victoria Gardens were opened for a second time. Collins Okundi walked several meters to house number 55. On arrival here, security guards say he was stopped by police officer Barack Odwor from entering the house. We do not know what was happening inside house number 55. We also do not know why Barack stopped Collins Okundi from accessing the house. What Murder Tips knows is that Collins accessed the estate with a lot of ease for a stranger. In the trial that the public is closely following, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is represented by Counsel Mercy Mwema.
The prosecution will tender evidence before reasonable doubt.
The defense is led by City Advocate John Lewis Onkendi. The two lawyers are going head-to-head. Ms. Mwema for the state is pushing through evidence collected by investigating officer Sergeant Boniface Mkala, evidence that seeks to convict Collins Okundi for the murder of Barack Odwor. Mr. Onkendi, on the other hand, through his line of cross-examination, hinting at self-defense. Marilyn Marion Ouma is the only prosecution witness who has taken to the stand to give testimony. In her testimony, Marion has told the Joe Omido court that she met Danyor Ajuang that evening for several hours. As night came, they were driven home by Barack Odwor. She entered the house to check on her child when she had a commotion outside. In her words, I got outside with my house help Irene and I saw Danyor, Collins and Barack engaged in a confrontation. Marion further told the court that she saw Barack Odwor draw a pistol, point it at Collins Okundi, then returned it in the holster. Marilyn's testimony appears to corroborate what witnesses had told the media on the date of the incident.
Mwenye kushuti yule, yeye ndiye alikuwa bwana ya huyo mama. Sasa mwenye aliuawa alikuwa anaishi hapa mgeni?
Mwenye aliuawa aishi hapa. Ni kama alikuwa mgeni. Mwenye ameuawa ndiye anaishi hapa. Na muonanga huyo mtu alikuwa anataka kumuua. Na akabeba mkono juu. Na akachukua bunduki, akamnyang'anya bunduki na akamuua. Hivyo tu. Na mwenye alikuwa ndani kutoka. Nasikia akampiga.
Ni kweli kwamba kuna mambo ya mapenzi hapa? Ilikuwa kwa sababu ya mapenzi ama mambo ya mwanamke?
Sasa hapo ndio siwezi kuongea sababu mwenye najua huyo mbaba ameua ni kama ameishi na yeye.
It now begins to make sense why the guards had no problem allowing Collins to enter the estate in Riyadh. Now we take a short break. When Murder Tapes returns, Collins Okundi, the man accused of disarming and killing Jaraha, is found in Eldoret in possession of the service pistol. Marion's testimony went further. As she talked about a confrontation, she did not disclose the nature of the confrontation or what the confrontation was about. She told the state prosecutor, Mercy Mwema, that she did not see who fired the shots as she was hiding behind the house when she heard a loud sound. Upon cross-examination by defense lawyer John Lewis Okundi, Marion Marilyn Ouma further told the Joe Omido court that Collins was just a friend. She did not know him well. She just used to see him. But pressed further, she admitted to having hosted Collins at her house about 4 times. In fact, during that cross-examination, it came out that on the day of the shooting, Marion admitted that Collins had been at her home earlier that day and left with the key to the back door. Murder Tapes had always wondered and sought to establish why the security guards were not strict on Collins as they were on us. No one could just enter Victoria Gardens. Not like that.
Walikuwa wameishi tu hapo na huyu mwenye kupiga huyo jamaa risasi. Mwenye kupiga risasi alikuwa bwana yake. Walikuwa wameishi hapo ndani. Walikuwa naendanga na huyo bibi yake nje, unarudi na gari hivyo hivyo. Tulikuwa tunaona wakati kwa nakuja kushikilia. Sasa ile mtu ameenda afu nasikia siku 3 yeye alafu anarudi. Tulikuwa tunaona
It was a chaotic night. Terrified, the residents of Victoria Gardens were. And in the ensuing stampede, Barack Oduor was shot twice, in the head and leg. Danyor Ajwang was shot in the leg and rushed to Aga Khan Hospital in stable condition. Barack Oduor was a disciplined police officer with 18 years in the service. He knew when to draw his gun, where to do it, and where and when not to even think about it. This appears to have been one of those moments when Barack saw no need to reach for his firearm. One, he was not on official duty. And secondly, there was no probable cause for him to do it. And when I spoke to Mr. Donde, the proprietor of Donde's Club, I asked him if Barack ever showed up with a gun and drew it for any reason at the club. He shocked me when he said he did not even know that Barack was a police officer, despite them knowing each other for quite some time. A few people knew. For people like Helen, Barack had never drawn or displayed his firearm.
It was so hard for you to know even he's a police officer. I never knew even myself. Anakuanga armed. I've never known all along. Me, I remember to Helen, I'm from Nairobi, ABCD, I want to drink it. How are you guys, ABCD? But I never saw even some sense, I'm anything to show it. Now I'm a policeman, I'm armed, ABCD. Anavaa tu normally, anakuja anakunywa, but kuonyesha hata anything, you know, I'm this and this, so I always carry this and this. No.
Barack Odwor is dead, and the news is spreading almost immediately. His wife, by now, is yet to leave the party at her cousin's house, and it is not easy to tell her that the Barry they were to pick at Dondes won't be alive by the time he's being picked.
So call yenye nilipata ilikuwa kutoka kwa mamangu mzazi. Akanipigia akaniuliza, Rena, kwani uko wapi? Nikasema hatujarudi kwa nyumba, ilikuwa tumetoka. Akasema ona bwanako kwa wapi? Nikamwambia mimi bwanangu si ndo tunamgoja. Hata ilikuwa faa tuende tukamchukue, but ni kama hata usingizi imepita na mimi juu tumeongea naye like 20 minutes ago. Akaniambia okay, patia huyo my friend sasa, simu, anaitwa Marion, rafiki yangu, like she's like a sister. Nikampatia simu. So mamangu kuongea na Marion, nikasikia tu Marion akasema Bari ameuawa wapi? So nikauliza Marion, Bari ameuawa aje? Akaniambia ati ngoja kwanza niongee na mamako. Nikasema hapana, nipatie tu simu ni face, kama ni ameuawa nijue na mapema. Akanipatia simu. But mamangu hakutaka kuniambia. Marion akakata akasema sasa twende tu uko side za Uzima. Ile site ya Uzima. Sasa kuangalia simu yangu at that point, nikapata Barack hakuni text back. Nikapata nilimtext like kwani at what time are we going back home, but hakuni text tena. Nikasema Bari ni ngumu sana akose ku reply to my texts. So nilivyoona hivyo nikamwambia Marion tunaenda huku, but na feel ni kama kweli there's something wrong. Jubara venye namjua na venye ananipigia kila saa si kawaida. Tukatoka na gari. Madhe pia juu tulikuwa tuna stay like karibu na Madhe pia wakatoa gari tukaenda hadi Uzima.
On arrival at Victoria Gardens, there lay the father of 5, the humble career policeman.
So your morning, sasa it was like around 3-4 am. Kufika hapo tukapata watu washa crowd hapo. Bado hata Bari hajafunikwa. Ako so cold hapo kwa nje tu. Kwa yard tu hapo. Some few steps to the door. Nilivyojaribu kumshikashika. Ilikuwa bado mbaridi sana. Wajaribu kushika hivi kifua nione kama labda ni mtu mwingine pengine amefaint ama ana need help. Madamu tu ndo ilikuwa inatoka. Sasa kina mamangu akakuja. Wakaleta shuka. Wakamfunika hapo hivyo chini. Madamu ilikuwa kila mahali. Yake iliisha tu hivyo. Huyo msichana hiyo time alikuwa ako huko ndani. Huyo rafiki yake mwenye alimpigia simu, huyo Kajuang, ilikuwa shapelekwa hospitali. Hatukumpata kwa scene by then. Nadhani hiyo incident ilipofanyika tu hivi, nikaa yeye alikuwa rushed to the hospital Aga Khan. Tukapata hapo watu walikuwa wamekaa hapo. So hiyo after kulialia nini, kulikuwa na like wajua hiyo time uko kwa shock. Watu walikuwa wamezingira hiyo place. Kulikuwa na Masai mwingine hapo, nadhani ni guard. Alikuwa amesimama hivi na kando. Then nikamuuliza, nini imefanyika hapa? Hakujua kwamba mimi ni victim. Juu nilikuwa nataka kujua like ilikuwaje. Jubari aliniambia tu ana drop out, marafiki zake anarudi, kwani what went wrong?
The answer to that question could easily be found in the police report. But the report itself had a lot of missing information. The shooting was reported to Obunga police station by Marilyn Marion Ouma as the owner of house number 55. She told police that she had left Donde's bar and restaurant as accompanied by her friend Donyar Kajwang and a police officer, Corporal Barak Otieno Oduor. That upon reaching the estate, one Collins Okundi, a manager of Club Signature Kisumu, suddenly appeared and a scuffle ensued between her, Danyar, and Corporal Barak Otieno Oduor. In the process, Collins Okundi disarmed the police officer and fatally shot him twice. Danyar was shot in the leg and he was rushed to Aga Khan Hospital, Kisumu, in stable condition. The suspect, Collins Okundi, immediately left with the firearm of the police officer. That was Marion's report to the police. That report failed to answer key questions of how suddenly Collins Okundi appeared at the estate, yet, according to security, Marion and Danyar had entered the house and had a change of clothes. The report did not talk about the relationship between Marion and Collins Okundi. The report did not acknowledge that the security protocol at the Victoria Gardens would not allow Okundi into the premises if the guards did not know him or if someone at the host house hadn't cleared him at the gate. The report also failed to explain the cause of the scuffle and the nature of the altercation. But witnesses had something to say about the fight that took about 20 minutes.
Huyo mtu amekufa tu sai asubuhi. Na hata kwa hiyo ugomvi. Nikasema kwa ugomvi aje, mbona sasa yeye ndo amekufa? Akanambia ati walivofika hapo, walivoshuka, kukaanza kukuwa na mvurugano kati ya Marion ambao ni girlfriend wa huyu Kajwang, alafu na huyo bouncer ambao ni Collins. So wanasema ati walivurugana hapo hivyo. So Barak kusikia hiyo mvurugano ndo Barak akaingililia. So walipigana pia kwa muda. So after hiyo kupigana nadhani yule nani akavuta hiyo nini. But sijui venye ilikuwa. Sijui tu penye like siwezi jua bunduki ilitokea na wapi, but hivyo ndo huyo mtu alisema. Ati after kupigana like wamekuwa wamepigana ndo huyo bouncer wa Signature akatoa bunduki na akampiga Barak.
After 2 days of confusion and on the run, Collins Okundi was arrested 155 kilometers away from the scene of the fatal shooting in Eldoret on October 16. His arrest came shortly after he surrendered to police in Uasin Gishu. In his possession was a Jericho pistol, Kenya Police Issue number 4131-1808, one magazine and several rounds of 9mm ammunition. A day later, Kisumu Court allowed a police miscellaneous application to detain him. A month later, the 29-year-old club manager was charged with murder. Way after the burial of Barak Oduor, the widow has been trying to get answers as to what really happened the night Barry was killed. She made a phone call to Marilyn Marion Ouma, the woman who owned the house where the tragic incident occurred.
Akaniambia ati kenye ili happen hiyo siku walikuwa wanakunywa na Kajwang tokea tu mchana, wakazidi kukunywa mpaka late hapo saa 5, saa 5, saa 6. So hiyo time wakikunywa akauliza Kajwang like anaishi huko mbali huko hiyo estate, but sasa atafikaje huko? Akasema Kajwang akamwambia kuna best yangu cha ni confirm kama ako hapa Kisumu, then atakuja atuescort huko. Sasa hata usikue na wasiwasi.
A highly anticipated trial is set to begin this year. Police and the prosecution are seeking to convince the court that Collins Okundi organized and executed the former police officer in cold blood. On his part, Collins Okundi is defending the case through city lawyer John Lewis Onkendi, pushing the narrative it was all self-defense from the two men and woman. Murder Tapes contacted Marilyn Marion Ouma, who picked and hung up our calls and never responded to our messages. Murder Tapes also contacted Danyor Ajuang for clarity on a few things. Hello, Mr. Juang.
Yes.
How are you?
Good.
Now, great. My name is Brian Obuya. I work for NTV. Yeah, we are trying to revisit the Barack Odwar case.
Who's that?
Barack Odwar.
Who's that?
Barack Odwar, Mr. Danyor, the guy who was shot at some time back. I got your contact from the court file.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, all right. Then I texted him to put his response on record. To this message, Daniel responded he would appreciate no calls, messages, or mentions from our team. For now, life will never be the same at Barack Odwar's household. And it is not just his family that knows this too well. A house where Mercy is the sole breadwinner.
Kila mtu aliumia roho. Because ukiona ni mtu bado alikuwa anategemewa sana. Hata familia yake was still young. Ambapo kwa maisha bado angefanya vitu vingi. Lakini sasa life ilimcut short.
With Barack Odwar dead, his wife is single-handedly taking care of their 5 children, doing some casual jobs here and there to make that happen.
Maisha hajakuwa rahisi. Sasa hizi ni mimi peke yangu. Mimi na Barack tulikuwa na watoto 3 wenye tulikuwa blessed now. Alafu Barack alikuwa na mke wa kwanza before mimi. So pia ni the late marehemu, aliacha watoto 2. Matanga ilivyoisha tu hivi tukarudi back to normal. Barack alikuwa at least ana provide like fully. Ni vile tu ilikuwa mimi pia niko na kazi kidogo, inaleta kidogo. But ile yenye like alikuwa na provide fee nini hizo ni vitu zenye alikuwa amezoea kufanya. Ilikuwa nikikam through tu kidogo. But hii sasa ni scenario yenye una come through like fully. Watoto wakigonjeka, juu alivyogonjeka tu hivi tukatolewa kwa cover. Hakuna penye naweza peleka watoto like watibiwe, not unless sasa tunawapeleke kwa district, pengine sasa ni lower life, ngangane ama wako wagonjwa ni wabaye madawa. Sasa inakuwa tricky. But I have to.
After a highly publicized burial, the family has been abandoned to fate. For now, at his home, his family clings to pictures to immortalize the memories of a man who worked diligently to protect the country. Pictures that remind them of his dedicated service as a police officer. Pictures that show his jovial and happy nature. And newspaper cuttings reminding them of the tragic loss on that day in that very moment. After 3 years and 3 judges, only one of the 5 prosecution witnesses has testified in the case, speaking to the pace of the murder trial that is supposed to ensure justice for Barack's family or to disentangle Collins from the traumatic and draining experience during the pendency of the murder case. The trial court sitting in Kisumu will make its decision on whether or not Collins Okundi is the man who shot and killed the career policeman? And if so, if he had the intention to do it. Thanks for watching. I am Brian Obuya. Good evening.